Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bruce McDonald, and this is the Talamanca Review. It's Tuesday, the 18th of November, 2025, and it's 8:26 p.m. my time, which is 1 hour behind Eastern Standard Time. I find myself in a flurry of activity. Opportunity seems to be coming to me. I'm very grateful. I regard opportunity as the only currency that God transacts in. Okay? And therefore, when you have opportunity put in front of you, every opportunity, every opportunity, then you're negotiating with God and you're being offered something, an opportunity to grow or an opportunity to continue your survival or an opportunity to expand in some area. And so I always regard opportunity as a divine moment, a divine flicker. I don't know, I can't find the word. A divine presence is what I'm trying to say. And I'm very reverential when it comes to opportunity. I revere it. Now, you can make your own opportunities, I suppose. But oftentimes, if obstacles get in your way, you might have to do something that is less than spiritually copacetic to move those obstacles out of the way. But when opportunity comes, and it just comes, and there's no real understanding of it, like you didn't wish it, you weren't thinking about it. I mean, other than your general consciousness footprint, which is always looking to, I guess, better your situation and better the situation of the people that you live with and the people that you love, the people who have been given to you to be loved by you. And that includes pretty much everybody in your daily experience. Even that obnoxious dude sitting in the cubicle beside you who you've never liked. And this is, for me, an important thing, I find it interesting, that very often when people have these near-death experiences and they come back and they give their report, it's very often things they never considered important that are taken seriously in the afterlife review. Like how you treated people. And how you loved. And love is just the practice of getting yourself out of the way and genuinely wishing what's best for that person. And sometimes, I guess, when you're in a highly competitive world, like the capital world, like the first world, sometimes it can be very difficult to wish well upon your competition. You see this a lot in pre-fight and post-fight interviews with boxers and mixed martial artists. After the fight, they generally love each other because, they each brought out the best in the other. And I suppose that's a good thing, to be pushed. It's a good thing. It's a good thing that there's pressure in this environment. Part of living here, part of being human is surviving. And if you can't get that right, you're not going to get anything else right. You're not going to grow. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to, jump into the world and Get a securities trading license, so you can work on Wall Street or Fleet Street or Bay Street in Canada. I don't know what the big financial street is in Australia, or I'd say it. But you do have to survive. There's many ways to do it, And this survival mandate is not to be taken lightly. It's not to be disregarded. And you should, if you're normal and if you're perceiving correctly, you should be a little annoyed. You should have a little contempt for people who don't think they have to survive, who believe that the right to exist and consume food and have shelter is a human right. In one hand, it is, because we should be able to do what we want to do. Anybody should be able to go into a remote area, wherever they live, and do what I did. You could probably build an earth bag house for $40,000, $50,000. I'm not saying that the system isn't ridiculous now. It is. They're literally trying to break us now. And they're trying to break the normal spiritual disposition of survival. They're trying to program that out of people. They're trying to program people to be dependent. It's about as negative as it gets. It will be a completely captive human race. Think of a single story you know of that doesn't have at its heart, at its core, as its principal dramatic tension, survival. Just think for a moment. It's everywhere. Sometimes the most obvious things are forgotten by people because it's our nature to forget. We are the forgetting species. Human beings are the forgetting species. We forget everything. We forget who we are. We forget where we come from. We forget what we're supposed to do here. It's a funny thing, the human stage and the life pattern on this planet. It's a very funny thing. Because only in the human realm, only in the realm of the 5 elements, only in the realm of ether, only in the realm of the gateway to higher consciousness, can we become lost between the natural instincts of our animal nature as a human being and our spiritual nature as a divine being. No other creature on this planet has that problem. No other creature. There isn't a story ever penned, whether it be a novel, a fable, a mythology, a television show, a movie. If the story is good and the story persists, meaning people remember it, there isn't one of them that's not centered in survival. You can't think of any. Think about the Coen brothers, Joel and Ethan Coen, and their incredible catalog of films. Every one of them, in one way, shape, or form, is a survival story. You've got their first film in the 80s, Blood Simple, if you've never seen it. Get a copy of it. Watch it. Brilliant movie. It's about survival. Survival amidst passion. Then they go to Raising Arizona. It's about survival. Nicolas Cage. Holly Hunter. Then they go to Miller's Crossing. Gabriel Byrne. Albert Finney. It's about survival. And probably the penultimate achievement of their survival motif is No Country for Old Men. The only film they've ever made not based on something they wrote. Purely about survival. Think about The Sopranos. It's about survival. Think about HBO's The Wire. It's about survival. Think about Oz. It's about survival. Think about Deadwood. It's about survival. Think about Star Trek, the original with William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy. It's about survival. Everything in human existence is about survival. Everything. And yet we now live in a world where it's being openly propositioned by governments, both national and international quasi or pseudo-governments. They are propositioning the human race to consider a life in which survival is not a factor. I believe that once survival is taken out of the human experience, the human race will be so malleable to programming that we will never come out of it. It will be the end of the human being as we know this version of the human being. And this version of the human being is worth preserving. A lot of time and work and effort went into creating the human race. We are an experiment of sorts. We are a product of other life forms that wanted to do an experiment with life, an experiment with deoxyribonucleic acid. And we are that experiment. And it's very liberating to understand this. But remember, it only pertains to the body. The you that is animating this body is an eternal being that is created by the same thing that created the life forms that created human life. And we have an ability to connect with that. This third dimension is a tremendous experiment in accessing the divine for sentient life. It's what it is. It's an experiment by more advanced beings to examine the ability of this third dimension to allow sentient life forms to connect with the source of life. Because it can't be done in a lot of the other dimensions. It can't be done. And this is why there's so much feeding here as well. This is why there's so much of what Robert Monroe called the loosh harvest. Because as we're down here, we produce energies through our feelings that contain the essence of the divine, and they become a kind of a delicacy or an energy source for entities and beings that can't access it directly from where they are. We're like a kind of an orchard for them, in the same way a human being would walk through an orchard and pull the fruit off the limbs of the tree and eat the fruit. This 3D reality and this planet and this variant of the creative process in this universe, the human being, an experimental template, is a producer of this rarefied energy. And when you come to understand that, you come to understand a little bit more about the sacredness of life, the preciousness of life. Now you may say to yourself, well, I'd have a lot more time to realize that, Bruce, if all my time wasn't taken up with surviving. Yeah, perhaps. But your apprehension of it would be flawed because it has to be rooted in autonomy. You have to do it on your own. You know, almost every time they organize something, the organizing principle collapses it. And we see that with the teachings of Christ and the organization principle around his incarnation and his teachings. The Vatican, the Anglicans, the Presbyterians, the Lutherans, the Methodists, the Baptists, the Evangelicals. And we got a dog pushing at the door, but I'm not going to break. I'm not going to give. I'm going to hold my ground. And so the organizational principle, every time it's brought into effect, it doesn't aid the intent. Whatever the intent is, it does not aid the intent. It can't. Not capable. Isn't that interesting? The field of consciousness is still to this day best defined by the lone operating ascetic monks in the Himalaya mountains of the Vedic tradition. They don't build temples. They don't even really congregate that much. They come across each other, but every single one of those ascetic monks in the Himalaya mountains is an independent operator, foraging, and still burdened with survival. They may eat 1/10 of the calories of a normal human being, but they still have to find that 1/10 calorie intake. It's amazing, really. And I'm not trying to be political, but it's impossible not to make political correlations to what I am saying. You can't not make the connection. What was the number I saw for the number of people on SNAP benefits food stamps in the United States. It surfaced due to the government shutdown. I think it was like 47 million. Now, in certain instances, I think it's okay. Like it's okay for the elderly. But generally, I mean, the old way we used to do it was family would take care of the elderly. You know? Family. Now, no. Get rid of those burdensome old people. Put them in a senior's residence. So many things have changed. And those changes came about in the 20th century. Very few of us will ever be with a person when they pass now. It will almost always happen somewhere else now. You know? A hospital, a hospice, a senior's residence. And they die alone. You know? As opposed to being at home, surrounded by their family. This leisure, or this comfort has nearly destroyed us. If you saw the world the way I see the world, you would see this chaos as a blessing. You would see the end of the first world lifestyle as a blessing. Because it is. It's a blessing. We are being blessed. Most people don't really understand what a blessing is. Most people think a blessing is something that aids their material existence. I was blessed with an inheritance. I got a new job. It was a blessing. No. A blessing is actually something which redirects us in our divine purpose in an incarnation. So much of the language we use is wrong, and it's getting worse by the day. Which is why I practice the fetish of looking up words when I'm doing my podcast sometime. And then talking about the etymology, and very often the word is changed from the understanding I had of it in 1985. And the 1985 understanding was correct, and the modern usage is incorrect. And that's all being done on purpose. This negative force that's here with us is trying to completely dominate us now. It thinks that this is its moment. And as such, it's going to try to win the game. It's going to try to checkmate us, and we are the human race. And the people doing it are also humans. They're in this body. but they've been darkened by very foul psychic alliances. Some of them may be duped. Some of them may still believe that what they're involved with is a benign being, maybe God. But the ones at the top, and I think even middle management now knows, no, it isn't. It's a lie. Now, circling back to this idea of loosh, whenever we talk about this topic, we go into the abstract. We talk about these entities on the fourth dimension. The astral is where the loosh harvest happens, according to Monroe. Well, it's where pretty much everything happens, in terms of the general consciousness we discuss. And that's only because very few people go beyond the astral in their consciousness or their perception. But here's the dirty truth. The loosh is harvested by other human beings. Okay? Remember everything I have spoken about on this podcast from its inception. Remember what I write about. Remember how Robert and I explained Palo Mayombe in The Light of Darkness. How a blood offering is made to spirits, low spirits. And these spirits are generally in the trap space between physical 3D and full fourth dimensional immersion. Full entry into the astral. This is a ghost. And when they're working in Palo Mayombe, they're always working with dead human beings. There's certain deities they work with, but I don't think they're really deities. I could be wrong. I don't know, but not really. Generally speaking, they're always working with human beings. Human beings in this trap space. And they feed them the same way you feed a dog. And what happens when you feed a dog? Well, it becomes loyal to you. Same thing here. Now, what we're dealing with the controllers in this cycle of history, the people with their big agendas, what we're dealing with are brokers. And so it's always high magic. They're trying to capture us because our energy is of value to the things on the other side, and those things on the other side provide the status for the human beings who control us. They provide the castles, the mansions, the elevated living, the extrasensory perception, the gratuitous and violent sex, the pedophilia, all of it. It's the Faustian bargain. And not many people understand that. And then most of the energy being harvested now is harvested by other human beings. This is what the entertainment industry is doing. I haven't bought a music album in I don't know how long, 20, 25 years. I just lost all interest in popular music. It just seemed to lose itself. Every once in a while, a band will come along that sort of catches my attention. Dire Straits, Money for Nothing, Telegraph Road, good stuff, very soulful. Johnny Cash at his best. Pink Floyd, certainly. Radiohead. But I've never been one to get trapped into a giant collective movement. The Britney Spears, the Ariana Grande, and they always seem to target these things at very specific groups. Very specific groups. You should always consider what the people you think are your enemies are saying about you. So when the Islamic world calls the United States the Great Satan, are they really that far off? And this isn't an advertisement for Islam. I'm not telling you to convert. But when you hear a truth that's outside the collective norm of your thinking, the collective consciousness in which you live, if someone's willing to say it out loud, say it consistently, and provide their evidence, I think it's only reasonable that you consider it. And I've considered it, and I think Islam is right about this. I think the West is the Great Satan. I think we have gone out of control. Yes, it's true that our way of living produced interesting ways of self-expression. We do get the geniuses still. We still have the Teslas. We still have the Musks, I mean. But even the geniuses are very dark now. Right? They're very dark. Everybody's working on the dark agenda now, which is to codify the gematria system into a control system. Numbers and letters, zeros and ones. What do you think a computer is? Okay? The digital world is not an accident. And these directives and these inspirations are given to human beings by negative entities. I suppose you could say that the technology could be negative or positive, but it seems unfailingly to end up on the negative side when it manifests in a human timeline. And whenever there's a technology that would benefit us and liberate us from centralized control, see, without centralized control, they can't harvest our energy. They can't live their lavish lives. They can't feed off of us. And these people are vacuous and empty. They wouldn't know what to do with themselves if they were left alone. They don't have a single idea what they would do with themselves left alone. The Mark Carneys and the Justin Trudeaus and the Donald Trumps and the Joe Bidens of the world. They exist because we exist, and we're an easy mark, and we give up our energy easy. We're like that girl in the 12th grade, that everybody takes a go at. It's disgusting, it's foul, it's perverse. And we can't really come together and fight it. There's no common ground to fight it. I could say that if we all converted to Islam, we could probably beat it, but then you got a new problem, Islam, which in its own way is as odious as the satanic system we're living in now. Especially the darker aspects of it. It's an adjunct of the Saturnian cult, there's no doubt about it. Don't kid yourself. There's pockets of light in it, but not really. It's a high old form of mind control. Still, the most effective form of mind control, even with all the modern technology, even with the blue screen technology that Jack Kruse goes on and on about, and he's right. He's not embellishing. He's right. Still, the greatest form of programming is language. Which, by the way, is why you like the Talamanca Review. Why you like the Talamanca Review. Because my voice is a deprogrammer's voice. You're being deprogrammed just listening to this. It's completely countercurrent. It's completely contrary to everything that's out there. I don't move off of a news motif. News motif. You know, what are the headlines? What's going to titillate people? What's going to get them oozing energy? Whoa. Zelensky and his top commanders caught laundering $100 million of U.S. aid money. Ooh. Yeah, it's titillating. Sure. That's why we like news, right? Again, you go back to the drama. And the drama is the tension between positive and negative, and the tension between positive and negative is the fulcrum upon which we define survival in this realm. And because most people's consciousness never go beyond the physical, they don't realize their eternal being. The fear of death accelerates or accentuates that dramatic pivot, that dramatic fulcrum, that dramatic moment, that dramatic exertion of energy, because for many people the death of the body is a great unknown. You know, great unknown. You cease to exist, some people believe. I think it's the height of ignorance to say that in public. Nothing could demonstrate greater ignorance to me than a statement like that. When you die, you rot in the ground and there's no afterlife. Arnold Schwarzenegger believes that. Howard Stern believes that. You know. When we remember people, we remember them because they achieved true individuality. It's why we remember Melville and Moby Dick. It's why we remember Dostoevsky. It's why we remember Cormac McCarthy. It's why we remember Orson Welles. It's why we remember Jules Verne. Not always, though. A percentage of those people are agents, pretending to be individuals, pretending to be forward thinkers, pretending to be visionaries, but really just revealing the next page in the book that they all want us to read, which is the timeline they want us to go down, which is ultimately leading to this rat cage we're in now. Let me change my pronoun, which is leading to this rat cage you're in now. Very foul, very ugly. A spectacle, really. And the only thing that rebalances us, unfortunately, and everybody's loath to admit this, but it's the truth, the only thing that resets a human population is extreme violence. Is that not the story? Is that not why we remember the Christ? How he suffered and died? We had a relative period of peace in the West after World War II. I suppose you could call it the dividend from the controllers of this planet. They were rewarding us. We deluded ourselves into thinking we were a more advanced culture. We were the first world, but really we were being fed by the controllers. And now it's being taken away. And apparently they have the power to do it. And so what life can you count on? The only life you can count on is the life you create for yourself. And therefore the American model of the radical individual is dead, because that is in many ways the most conformist society in the world now. The most myopic in its perspective. The least worldly, the most self-centered. But really, when you think about it, would you want to live any other way? Would you really want to live a life without drama? I think drama is what we come here for. The end of drama is the end of life. The end of dynamic tension between two poles is the end of incarnation. We reincarnate because of our karma, which is an impulse we haven't yet satisfied. A longing we still need to fulfill. So we're doing it to ourselves. Which, of course, brings us to the true definition of evil, which is the deliberate inhibition of the growth of consciousness. The deliberate inhibition or prohibition of growth. Tacit prohibition. They'll tell you they want you to be a better human being, but they don't, because when you become a better human being, you become clearer in your perception and you realize that the governing principles around you are complete bullshit and borderline slavery. It's been this way since the beginning of recorded history. And nothing will change it. The stupidest thing on the planet is thinking some external force is going to come and save us. Everybody wants to buy into this bullshit now. Right? The extraterrestrials are the same thing to stupid Gentiles as the Messiah is to Chabad Lubavitch. Something's going to come and save us. I don't think so. I think the game down here and the way they set it up and the way this experiment is run is it has to come from us. It's true that great teachers come into the planet, but I'll tell you why they come. They come because they're called. And we human beings call them through our suffering. And they come and they tell us how to end suffering, and nobody listens to them, and we kill them and we torture them, and and then another 30 generations goes by and we say, God, 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 help us. He sends another avatar in, we kill that one and laugh at what he or she tries to teach us, and then we start whining again for another manifestation of God. It's fucking pathetic. It's a disgrace. It's shameful. The only life worth living is the life you create for yourself. The only life worth living is the life you create for yourself. It took me a long time to create my life, but I have. And this is my testimony. This is my testament. The life you create for yourself is the only life worth living. I have guests here now, as I mentioned to you. A young man about 25 years old and his mom. I think she's 64. Lovely people. And the young man is a friend of my son's. Lives in Portland. And it's always amazing for me to have people up here and watch this place transform people. And one of the things that goes is your ability to gauge time. I mean, up here, normally I don't know what day it is. I mean, I need to remind myself what day it is. So one of the first things I do when I wake up, what day is it today? Right? I'm a little structured because of my work. But that's about it, you know. And the stuff I have in my my calendar, the meetings I have. So, it's all good. But you lose track of time up here, you know. I lost a whole day last week. I thought it was Friday, it was Thursday. Couldn't believe it. It literally took me like 30 minutes to accept it. Yeah, man, it's Thursday. I don't know how I came to believe it was Friday, but I did. Happens all the time up here. My guests brought me cigars. I'm so weak. Well, I don't trust a man without vices. They say that the holy people say that vices are unresolved wounds. I'm not sure I believe that, but maybe they've never had a good cigar. I think you should enjoy your life a little bit too. The trajectory of the world is really remarkable to me now, and the speed with which they're rolling it out is really remarkable to me now. I see it most clearly in Canada, which I think hands down has taken the lead in this manifesting the global agenda, manifesting, although they're being crippled now because free trade was a critical part of what they had planned, and Trump has thrown a monkey wrench into that. Trump is a chaos agent. I watched a few people talking about him, people of consciousness, right? And they all say the same thing. One of them actually was Maria Abramovich, that Serbian witch. And, God bless her. Witchcraft is allowed in a free will space. Who am I to judge? And that's honestly the way I live life. I would never do it because I know the consequence. But probably I know the consequence because I went through it in a lifetime 2,000 or 3,000 years ago. I don't need to do it again. God bless her. I don't like to shit on people. Like I said, I'd go into a burning building for Rabbi Shmuley. That's just who I am. I like who I am. Me and John Candy, we like who we are. But Trump is a chaos agent, and it really transcends his personality. I mean, when you think about it, it's quite interesting because I heard Cormac McCarthy say this in like 2005 or 2006 or I don't know. He did an interview with Oprah Winfrey for The Road, which was a huge book for him. And he said, somewhere in the world is the luckiest person and somewhere in the world is the unluckiest person. And these things are quantifiable and measurable. They're not superstitious. And somewhere in the world, there's someone who everything they try, it fails and blows up in their hand. And somewhere else in the world, there's someone who everything they try, it works out and they succeed and they prosper from it. And not all by merit or attitude or this Neville Goddard shit or Anthony, whatever his name is there, that gigantic guy, Anthony Robbins. Not by that, but just by something that's pre-written into the code of their life. Call it fate, call it, destiny. But destiny is what you make while you're alive, but fate is the result of your cumulative decisions. But, what am I trying to say here? I'm trying to say that a great measure of what we go through in a lifetime is predetermined before the lifetime begins. And so we have to accept that. Now, you can break all that. If you go to a higher state of consciousness, you can definitely break all those patterns, but very few people do. Or maybe I'm just seeing it from my perspective. I don't know. Very few people do. And but it's really amazing to me the degree with which, the rapidity with which the Canadian system is going down. And everyone's caught on now. Everybody with money is leaving Canada now. Everybody with money is leaving Canada now. Everybody who can is leaving. Not because they don't love Canada, but because they see what's going on. And they have figured out that it's deliberate. I think everybody's kind of caught on now. I think what they used to call conspiracy is general consensus now. And that general consensus would be that the pandemic was false or manufactured by human beings. That the response to the pandemic, the mRNA vaccine, is extremely dangerous to human beings and was known to be dangerous and deliberately deployed because it was dangerous. Ergo, the pandemic and the resolution of the pandemic was a Hegelian dialectic in a nutshell. Problem, reaction, solution. All pre-planned. Okay? And you have to see that pretty much everywhere now, because I don't think there are any exceptions, and I would throw Trump into it now. The only exception I would allow Trump is that there's something about his frequency now, his signature as a human being, in which everything around him comes out what I would call truthfully. And what I mean by that is, no matter what his intention is, look at the Epstein thing. You know, it was his intention to hope that went away. And he's the one who fanned the coals and got the flame going on that, going all the way back to 2016, talking this crazy shit about the deep state, alluding in the Archbishop's New York dinner for the presidential candidates in 2016 or 2015. I can't remember. Him and Hillary Clinton were there. He gives this speech and he openly suggests that, Hillary Clinton was nabbing children in Haiti. And now here we are, like 9 years later, and he's calling the whole Epstein thing a Democratic hoax. What sense does that make? Trump makes no sense, but everything around him works in our favor if what you define as favor is the truth coming out. And I saw this 9 years ago, and I'm right. And I'm not being immodest by saying that. I was right, and it's proven right. So for that reason and that reason alone, I support Donald Trump. Because he's the closest we're going to get to revealing the truth. And all that gives us, okay, this is very important to understand, all that gives us is an opportunity. But if we're so narcotized by our own leisure and comfort that we don't rise to the opportunity and demand change, and that's going to take sacrifices. Maybe you lose your job. Maybe they freeze your bank account for a while. Maybe this, maybe that. But it has to be done. It has to be done for our children and our grandchildren. It has to be done. And Trump is providing the opportunity for us to see it. And when you see it, you get enraged, and that rage is a transformative energy. But right now, it's like a car engine that is not turning over. Don't know what it is, whether the engine is flooded, whether the spark plug is dirty, I don't know what it is, but the engine is not turning over. So I think what's happening with Trump is absolutely brilliant. I don't think Trump's in charge of it. I think he's an organic portal and forces are working through him, and I think he had no choice but to work with these forces. I think an offer was made to him that, and this can happen even in the dream state if you're conscious enough, where he just could not turn down that offer. And it balances him out in some way. It balances out his karma. So, it's a very odd and metaphysical way of looking at Trump and looking at the political situation in 2025, but that's how I look at it. That's how I see it. Why would I want to see it any other way? Because the way I see it is the truth. Yeah. I think we're on the verge of something great. And great things always come with sacrifice. So, get ready for the great things. I'm Bruce McDonald, and this has been the Talamanca Review.